The last part that I wanted to talk about is heritability. Heritability is the extent to which a particular trait can be attributed to genes, but we're looking at this particular trait, looking at the variance among people. So, for example, if we're talking about intelligence, okay, we're looking at not your specific intelligence with heritability. We're not saying that, for example, 60% of your intelligence comes from your parents and your genes. That's not what we're referring to. What we are referring to is that, okay, maybe if heritability of intelligence is 60%, and I'm making that up, but if it is, let's say that it's 60%, we're explaining the differences among people. So we're saying that the reason that we have such variance in degrees of intelligence in society, so from one culture to another, or from a large group of people to another group of people, 60% of that has to do with their genes. Okay, so keep in mind, it is not saying you particularly are a result of 60% of you is a result of heritability. It's saying that 60% is a result of the differences among people. So I kind of put that also, and I know it's really, really wordy, and I apologize, but again, I put this in kind of some notes format. So the percentage of heritability doesn't mean how much your characteristic is genetic, it means how much of the differences among people are genetic. So for example, another example, depression. Okay, depression has actually been shown that it's 40% heritability. So what that means is that the differences in depression among different cultures, different groups, the reason why some cultures and groups have a higher rate of depression than others is 40% of that is a result of genetics. Another example, alcoholism. Okay, alcoholism has a 50 to 60% heritability. Again, what this means is that we're talking about how many alcoholics there are in, for example, the United States versus China. Okay, we are saying that 50 to 60% of the differences is accountable to genes and heritability. Okay, so that's what we're saying is that we're talking about the differences among people, not your chances of being an alcoholic. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes sense. All right, the last thing I wanted to point out is that genes and environment oftentimes work together. So what you get genetically will affect your environment. Okay, and one of these specific examples is the idea that our genetically influenced traits oftentimes evoke certain responses in people. So people respond to you, for example, the way you look will cause people to have a different response to you. For example, in your textbook they have an example of the actor who plays Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean is a British comedian, and he's kind of one of those goofy characters. And if you look at him in your book, he's goofy looking, okay? Compared to, for example, Zac Efron is also in your book, okay? So Mr. Bean versus Zac Efron. They're both comedians. I'm sorry, they're not comedians. They're both actors, okay, but they're different types of actors. And part of it has to do with their genetic traits, okay? Mr. Bean is a goofy looking guy. Zac Efron, more pleasing looking. So as a result, Zac Efron is going to be in more shows and movies that are more serious roles, or more romantic comedies, those kinds of things. He could play a funny guy, yeah, but does he have to? No, not really, because of the way he looks. He has more options than, say, Mr. Bean, where the way he looks is going to impact more on how people perceive him just going into things. Another example, this lady right here, I don't know if you know who she is, but her name is Melissa McCarthy. She has been in several movies. She was in Bridesmaids. Was in most recently The Heat with Sandra Bullock. She was on my favorite show, Gilmore Girls. She's also on a show recently now that's still on the air, Mike and Molly. But if you look at her, she's a cute girl and everything, but she is definitely one where she's not going to be somebody that they're going to, for example, be the headliner in a movie. Okay, she is not going to be the A-list celebrity. She is going to be the best friend, right? She's going to be the comedic relief. She has always played kind of these comedy roles and these sidekick roles. She's not going to be the lead star in, for example, a romantic film. Okay, whereas, for example, her co-star in The Heat, Sandra Bullock, okay, she is much more versatile. Okay, she's played parts where she's been comedic actress, but she's also played more serious roles, like recently with George Clooney and Gravity. Okay, so my point is that, okay, I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but what I am saying is that their genetically influenced traits and what they look like is going to it's going to change the way people see them, for better or for worse. That's the way it is. Okay. If if you're a goofy looking kid growing up, you probably are more likely to develop into, somebody who maybe, hopefully is going to be roll with the punches and easygoing person, and maybe they'll be a funny person because that's what people expect by looking at them. Okay. So that's kind of the idea of genes and environment. All right, I'm going to stop here for now. In class, we will get to talking about genes a little bit more, but let me know if you have any questions.